Nataraja, the dancing god, the god of dancing. So Nataraja is the presiding deity of the dance of the world. It's not just the dance of the human beings, but the dance of the stars, dance of the planets, the dance of the whole universe that's going around, the stars and everything happening in the cyberspace and all over the world, all over the universe and beyond. So Nataraja philosophically has been described as a representation of the 5 krityas, that is the pancha kritya as they say: creation, destruction, illusion, protection and destruction, abhaya also. These 5 different kinds of activities of the world is supposed to be represented in Nataraja. Also the 5 different elements: the air, the earth, the space, the fire, and the, what else, the 5th one? Earth, air, fire, space and water. All are represented in this sculpture. If you see water, Ganga flows down. Ganga is here represented as a woman in the hair of Shiva. And from there we know the whole story of how Bhagirath prayed for the water of the Ganga and for Ganga to flow down, and how she said that the force of her fall might dissimulate the earth, and so she wanted a hard surface on which to fall. And Nataraja, Shiva opened his locks and stood on the Himalayas and asked Ganga to fall on his head, and then he locked it up, and then again Bhagirath prayed, and then he opened a little opening in his hair, and Ganga trickled down and moved as a major river, and all the tributaries joining her. So Ganga is coming down from Shiva's hair, water. And if you notice, of course the fire is there in his hand. Each one has a story, a big story, and then from the Damaru comes the life, creation. Sound is said to be the creation of the whole universe, of humankind. It is from sound that the universe has begun, they say. So the Damaru in his hand is what the source of creation. Fire is the source of destruction. And this hand here is Abhaya, protection. And this hand is telling surrender your ego. And he is on the earth. Now this is the basic of the philosophy of Nataraja. But there is also something much more for Nataraja than just the philosophical ideas about the sculpture. There is also research going on among the astronomers, astrophysicists, as to how the figure of Nataraja, the wireframe for Nataraja, is the Orion constellation in the sky. And in the Orion constellation, which is Mrigashirsha for us, Mrigashira, there is Arudra Nakshatra within it. Arudra is Shiva's nakshatra. So when Arudra Darshanam happens just near the winter solstice, you see the Orion constellation right above. And Dr. Nirupama Raghavan, an astrophysicist, did a lot of work on it, and she has placed the figure of Nataraja on the Orion constellation and showed that it almost matches. and the Prabhavali that is surrounding him is the universe ever expanding, constantly expanding universe. So this whole universe is framed in the figure of Nataraja. And one of the very, very interesting aspects is the figure which is the figure of Moyalakan or Apasmara Purusha in Sanskrit. Apasmara is the arrogant who has forgotten everything, and so Shiva is supposed to be dancing on arrogance and ignorance. That is what the philosophical explanation is. But also, just below the Orion constellation is a small constellation called Lepus. Lepus in Greek, Latin, means rabbit, and we call this figure Moyalakan. So Moyalakan means the rabbit man. Why do we call it rabbit man? Why do we call him rabbit man in Tamil? Moyalakan. It's a question that we need to ponder. And if the wire frame for Nataraja is the Orion constellation, it is a logical explanation that this is the Lepus constellation below the Orion constellation. And just beyond the Orion constellation, you see the just next to the Orion constellation, coming up just before the Orion constellation, is a constellation called Taurus. Taurus is the bull. Bull is bringing up the Orion, just in front, and in Taurus is Aldebaran. Aldebaran is Rohini Nakshatra in Indian astronomy, and Rohini is the brightest star you can see, and there is a lot of story around Rohini. So astrologically, there is the story of Nataraja is connected to us astrologically. So when we do Arudra Darshanam, you see the Orion constellation right above in the sky. So Nataraja has both scientific, philosophical, artistic, and an incredible connection to the universe, the spinning of the universe. You see the Nataraja's hair is standing straight, horizontal. When can the hair be horizontal? Only when you are spinning. So by keeping the hair horizontal, the artist is telling us that this is not a static pose. It's a dynamic pose in a spinning moment, that moment has been caught in a sculpturous pose. So by keeping the hair horizontal, the waistcloth flying, the snake moving, the artist is telling us that this is not a static pose, it is a dynamic pose. So Nataraja has many layers of meaning for us.